You know the drill. What is Adventure Time even about? Well, this is going to be the most out-of-pocket series I've covered so far, so let's get into it. In the episode No One Can Hear You, this mysterious deer terrorizes the Candy citizens by licking them. There's more to this, but we'll get to that later. So Finn and Jake attempt to jump the deer, however, they get brutally injured. These aren't your average injuries either. This is the type of stuff you would expect the neighborhood's kid to pull off. The deer purposely bangs Jake's head multiple times to give him brain damage, and then it destroys Finn's kneecaps by jumping on his legs repeatedly to the point where Finn gets put into a coma. This isn't even where the real creepy stuff happens. When Finn wakes up, the Candy Kingdom is empty, so after some walking around, he found Jake rummaging through garbage, preparing for his birthday party. Basically, Jake thinks everyone's hiding from him so they can surprise him, but there's just something very disturbing about how he talks.
Yes, and they'll only come out if they think we'll be surprised. So we gotta act like we're totally unaware, okay?
That line gives me chills, and the fact that throughout the rest of the episode Jake keeps pushing this behavior onto Finn is even more creepy. But that all ends when he lets it slip that Finn's been in a coma for 6 months. And what was even more suspicious is that at this point there were voices that were coming from the sewer. So naturally Finn had to check this out, but not on Jake's watch, because Jake broke Finn's wheelchair. He did eventually get into the sewers, but the plot twists from here on out are wild. So the Candy people were actually trapped in the sewers thanks to the brain damage to Jake's birthday fantasies. He stuck them all to the sewer walls and left them there to rot for months while he pretended they were planning his birthday party. Or so we thought. The truth is, it was the deer all along. That freaky ass deer is overpowered, but he got what he deserved. Before he could piece up Finn for the second time, Jake clutched from the ceiling by removing the 2 bricks that were attached to his birthday balloons, which in turn dropped on the deer's head. Once he was in a concussion, everybody slammed the reindeer into this whirlpool.
The deer wanted our sugar, but I didn't give him any, if you know what I mean.
Princess Bubblegum is such a weirdo. Nobody knows what you mean, bro. Looking back on this episode, the weirdest thing about this deer has got to be how it acts like a human. Like, what are you doing with those hands? That deer is a skinwalker, no matter how you slice it. And the fact that it easily stole 6 months of the whole kingdom's lifespan, like it was nothing, just makes me want to know what it really is even more. Alright, let's talk about the episode Food Chain. You could probably tell this episode was gonna be trippy as hell with the opening visuals and Magic Man singing. The art style was even changed specifically for this episode. So what happens at first is that Finn and Jake attend this convention about the food chain that was organized by PB to educate some kids, but nobody gives a shit, so Magic Man, who was stalking everyone, took matters into his own hands by sending Finn and Jake on an acid trip. Basically, Finn and Jake got turned into birds where they would be acting out the food chain. So they started munching on some worms, then got chased by a big bird, and then for some reason Finn transforms into the big bird. This is where shit gets kind of freaky, because Big Bird Finn looks ugly as hell, and when he drools it's just way too nasty. He basically peer pressured Jake to hop in his mouth, but when Jake realized the biggest bird was about to gobble his intestines, he dipped as soon as possible, and this led to Finn dying from starvation. This also led to Finn turning into a bunch of bacteria and eating the corpse of the big Finn bird. And then Finn and Jake became flowers where they would watch days and nights flash by in the blink of an eye, whilst they got bodied by some caterpillars. After their flower visions die, they become caterpillars who search throughout the desert for an oasis to save them from starving. Along the way, Finn falls in love with this thing and they have some moments which lead to them about to get married. Just as this was about to happen, Magic Man is done edging Finn and decides to break the spell. So at this point, Finn and Jake are brought back to reality, where Finn immediately starts puking out caterpillars for some reason, and then he starts a musical number, glazing the food chain after being enlightened by the Magic Man. The song goes hard. You guys should listen to it.
Have you seen this man?
It's the maniac!
I'm not gonna play it though. Making Adventure Time videos is risky business when it comes to copyright in itself. And finally, Finn turns into whatever this is at the end of the musical number. This show is way too random. The next episode we need to discuss is the blank-eyed girl. This is gonna be by far the trippiest episode so far. So basically, Finn and Jake were just vibing eating pizza and listening to Starchy, the conspiracy theorist. And on the radio, a banana god says he saw this weird girl with black eyes in the reflection of a washing machine. These girls are apparently ghosts, and the last thing they looked at before they died made their eyes turn blank, according to Starchy. So after hearing that, they both walked through the forest at night to get home, but didn't realize they were being followed. So when they got home, as Finn looked through the door, he noticed the little black-eyed girl is staring at them. At this point, they were both shitting themselves, and since Finn is a big fan of Starchy, they called him for help. But bro is basically useless. He's literally a fraud. He told them not to invite the girl in, but she broke in anyways. Then Starchy told them to feed the girl some cream, which is just diabolical. And then when the girl went in for the lick, she started licking Jake's hand instead. Don't worry, it doesn't end there. This time Starchy told them to play the clarinet because ghosts are supposed to hate that. So when Jake morphed his arm into a clarinet, the girls started dancing, and the song was such a vibe that multiple of them kept spawning in from various parts of the house and started joining in, all 6 of them. Since this plan failed, he suggested using a chicken to scare away the girls. So they were gonna make Jake turn into a chicken, but the moment Finn and BMO started glazing Jake with honey is the moment he drew the line, and rightfully so. So he told Starchy he is a fraud. Child services would have been more useful than this guy at that point. Finn and Jake needed to figure out how to get rid of these things. So Finn came up with a hypothesis. They are physical manifestations collected from people's thoughts. So it's basically Starchy's fault for spreading all these rumors through his radio, which deepened people's beliefs. In order to test this hypothesis, Finn started gaslighting himself into thinking they weren't real. And whilst this was happening, Jake was getting molested by the ghost ladies. And just as he got away from them, they started taking off their blank eye contacts, hair, took off their heads, then ripped off their skin and flew out of the window. Yeah, Adventure Time is too trippy for its own good. I genuinely don't understand the purpose of this episode. I'll just let you guys ponder on this one. Season 2, Episode 2, The Eyes. The episode starts off with Finn and Jake being exhausted after staying awake for 7 days of riding each other's meat. So they go to sleep. Well, they try to go to sleep, but they can't because a horse is watching them and making them uncomfortable. Yo, Finn, there's a Diddy party later on. You gotta be there. There's gonna be dick and balls everywhere. Bring your friend over as well. Yeah, the guy who can stretch really long. He'll be real useful. So after getting catcalled, they try closing the curtains so they don't have to see the horse looks maxing on them, but the moon's reflection made the horse's shadow loom above them anyways. So they decide to confront the horse, but it's geeked as hell, stoned to the max. Talking to that crackhead is the equivalent of reciting the B-movie script to a brick wall, so Jake just moves it away, but it comes back because the cow doesn't know how to take a hint. So Jake and Finn try put a blindfold on it, but it still sees like this. So Finn comes up with a great plan.
Dude, Pooh Brain means we can lure it away from here using music. Everything brainless likes music.
Which is true. It's why I don't use background music in my videos anymore. At first, Jake plays Beethoven, but it doesn't work because Beethoven is a fraud. So then they try Mozart, but that just lures snakes because Mozart just stabs people in the back. I'll never forgive you, you bastard. Mozart! The horse's Goku versal invulnerability got so irritating to Jake that he wanted to kill it, and him being tired didn't help at all. So Finn and Jake came to a peaceful compromise, which involved dressing up the horse as a bunny so the birds can fly away with it and eat it alive. It was either this or they were gonna threaten Eminem to release new music. So the horse got lucky, honestly. All in all, this was a respectable and valid crash out. The birds then dropped the cow into Finn and Jake's house and made a run for it because they realized it had AIDS, monkeypox, and COVID-19. And at this point, the boys were losing their shit and started crashing out by complimenting each other.
You're a great listener. You know what, Roman? You have a kind soul.
What are you laughing at? You smell amazing.
Well, you have impeccable manners.
After Finn and Jake's lover spat is over, Finn kicks the cow in the ass, and the Ice King comes out. No, not like that. He literally came out of the homunculus. A tired Finn and Jake then fight Ice King, who could barely find any ice cubes to use because that's just normal. So this fight was the equivalent to watching Ino and Sakura battle it out. It was entertaining but for the wrong reasons. And eventually, Finn and Jake beat the Ice King, where they find out Ice King was spying on them to learn how to be happy. If he watched one of my YouTube videos, then he'd be very happy. I'm just saying. And during that yapping session, they all fell asleep and Ice King still wasn't happy after a good night's rest, which was actually the moral of the story. Get a good night's sleep or Eminem will release a new album. On to the next episode. Season 5, episode 38, Red Starved. Wow, that's a lot of episodes for a season. The episode starts off with Finn, Jake and Marceline exploring this underground city for this thing called the Spoon of Prosperity that Princess Bubblegum wanted. And after they found this item, Jake ate Marceline's red markers, mistaking it for candy. And then he starts sinking in quicksand and turns into a drill to get out. And he does, but he also blocked their exit out of the underground city as a result. You'll see constantly throughout this episode that Jake is a repeat offender when it comes to being a liability. It's almost like it's Freaky Friday and Patrick and Jake switched bodies. This world isn't all sunshine and rainbows, and it looks like either me or Marceline will have to teach Jake a lesson. On to Jake's second offense. Because everyone was stuck, they decided to have a snack break, and this is where Marceline realizes Jake's fat ass ate her red markers. So Finn goes exploring for some red to avoid Marceline turning feral. Finn's for real fixing this useless guy's problems that he caused. So whilst Finn is exploring, Marceline decides to tie herself up for Jake's safety, and Jake started munching on more food. This episode almost turned me into a Jake hater. Something about the way he was acting was just getting on my nerves. But this is a one-off. Jake's still fun to use in multiverses, so he survives for now. Back to Finn's POV. He finds a door and explores further, since he decided lava would be bad for Marceline. It may be red, but it's dangerous, kids. So then he follows around this red light, which seemed to turn all these people to sand. This is also what will happen to all you viewers when I do my face reveal as well. The more you know. Once Finn got to the root of the red light, he found some turtle dude illuminating a ruby, and the turtle thought Finn was some guy he knew. But after they cleared up the confusion, Finn finds out the turtle guy and some other dude planned to turn everyone to sand and reanimate their bodies to take over the turtle dude's home planet, but that failed due to lack of communication. But it's okay, if an army attacked that planet, I would have stepped in. The turtle dude is depressed because he wasted all his life down here, so he scuttles on home after having a brief argument with Finn, telling him the crystal is an emerald when Finn thinks it's a ruby. And Finn got permission to take the ruby back, so he goes back to Jake and Marceline with it. In the meantime, Jake continues to be a fat shit, and now he wants to eat Marceline after he just finished up his mukbang, so he starts cooking her up with lava. It's at this point where Finn comes back with a ruby, except it's not a ruby, it was actually an emerald. The turtle bro was right, Finn's just colorblind. So at this point, Finn and Jake were cooked, and Marceline even escaped, so just as she was about to bite Jake's balls off, PB saves the boys as she rides in on her Alaskan bullworm. But as she gets distracted by the conversation, Marceline swoops in and sucks her dry. Luckily, the Spoon of Prosperity brought PB back to normal, so they all fly away together happily ever after. I just thought it was creepy to see a feral and unhinged Marceline on the loose, to be honest. But also, why couldn't Marceline just take a little bite of Jake's blood to hold her over? Surely she didn't need to drink all of it if those tiny red markers were going to get her by. That's just something to think about. Season 5, Episode 1, Finn the Human. In this episode, we come to the understanding of how cruel and unfair the world of Adventure Time truly is. But before we talk about how Finn and Jake got to the point of chasing evil incarnate across the universe in order to prevent him eradicating all of humanity, you're gonna need some context. Finn had a dream where this strange looking slug has possessed the strongest warrior in the land of Ooh, Billy. One other thing that needs to be pointed out about this dream is that a bear was here, and this bear was given a very important book by Finn in an earlier episode. This was no regular dream either, because you could see a cosmic owl in the background, meaning that this truly happened. Now you may be wondering, who was disguised as the slug? It was the Lich. The Lich is the embodiment of the ultimate evil, and where there's an ultimate evil, there must be an ultimate good to combat it. This is where Finn comes in. However, the Lich is inevitable and he despises all life, and his goal is to destroy all life. He has existed before time and space and has been defeated many times, but he always comes back, and this is how he plans to ruin all life as we know it this time. After Finn's dream, he and Jake go out to check up on Billy and tell him what happened. Little do they know that Billy's already been possessed, but they won't find this out until much later. So this imposter Billy gets them to collect all the crown jewels in the meantime for the Enchiridion. In a nutshell, the Enchiridion is the most powerful artifact in Adventure Time due to the fact that it contains knowledge on everything in the universe. However, if the book belongs to the wrong holder, then this could lead to great disaster. For example, if the person is a kind-hearted hero who likes princesses, then the book would reveal knowledge on princesses and stories of heroes. So imagine what the book would reveal in the hands of the Lich. I just find it funny that Finn thought it would be a good idea to leave the Enchiridion in the hands of the bear, and now that's come to bite him back in the ass because the Lich has it now. Someone needs to lock this woman up. She deserves a whole video for herself. So after Finn and Jake gathered all the crystals of the Enchiridion, the Lich was going to use them to open up a path to a time room where any wish he wanted would be granted. But before he could get away with this evil plot, Princess Bubblegum clocked that the Lich was an imposter. Look at how much nightmare fuel this guy gives off. So when Finn realized that, he started ripping the book to shreds. But it already had the gems inside it, which unfortunately still opened up the portal. So this is where Finn and Jake were tailing the Lich to Prismo's time room. However, by the time they had already got there, they were too late, and the Lich wished for the eradication of all time. However, Finn and Jake were safe because they were also in Prismo's time room, so this meant that they also had a chance to make a wish. So in order to counter the Lich's wish, Finn wished that the Lich never even existed. This is where stuff gets weird and interesting as heck. After Finn made that wish, it put him in a separate timeline where the Lich never existed. However, without the Lich, this means there would be no more magic, mutations or oddness in this world. Everything would be normal, and it looks so wrong. Everyone looks so ugly. However, things are about to take a turn for the worse. You see, in this timeline, Finn and Jake are living their lives as poor farmers, where Finn's dad is being used by a group of thugs called the Destiny Gang. These guys basically run the whole area Finn is living in. And because Finn's family owes the Destiny Gang money, Finn has to sell his mule. So as Finn searches for someone to sell his mule to, he stumbles upon a cave where you can see the corpse of this world's Ice King buried under a nuke. What's even more interesting is that he still has the crown on top of his skull. Now, if you know anything about Adventure Time, then you should 100% realize that this crown is straight up bad news. The evergreen crown can give you great power, but at the cost of your sanity. This artifact is so rich in lore that I'm tempted to make a separate video on the evergreen crown and down the line. Oh yeah, and this old chubby lady that's been guarding Simon's crown is Marceline. She starts explaining to Finn that years ago, Simon used the crown to freeze the bomb that now hangs over his skeleton in order to save the world from turning into a mutation horror zone. After hearing all this, Finn steals the crown and tries to sell it, but gets it stolen straight away from him in the process. Can you even blame Finn? He just wanted to keep his mule and protect his dad. And who was gonna believe such an absurd story from some old bat that they just met?
The crown. Go get it.
I know you're not really talking to me. I'm not crazy.
Get the crown. Go get it. Get the crown, Marceline. Go get it.
I can't. My knees.
Even in a different reality, this guy can't catch a break. I guess some things are simply inevitable. Back to the matter at hand. The people who stole the crown from Finn were actually members of the Destiny Gang, and while those Destiny Gang members were at it, they stole Finn's mule as well and threatened to eat it. At this point, Finn was done being a victim and he was going to be the first person to stand up to these menaces. The villagers found this really inspirational, so they attached a prosthetic to his arm to give Finn a fighting chance. By the time Finn was about to body the leader of the Destiny Gang, he is met with the horror of the town being burnt and his family suffering when he looks through the window. In the heat of the moment, Finn is pressured into wearing the crown in the hopes of gaining immense power, knowing that he has nothing to lose after the massacre that the Destiny Gang caused. And this did help Finn to an extent. However, because he became so drunk with power, he would attack friends and foe alike. His attacks became uncoordinated and random, leading him to hit the missile that the Ice King protected, releasing all of the mutant spray. Now, while all this is happening to Finn, we cannot ignore the fact that Jake still hasn't made his wish. This means that the real Jake is still in the time room watching Finn's fate unravel before his eyes. When I rewatched this episode, I truly did forget how dumb Jake is. You have to be on a different level of carefree to watch your homie suffer before your eyes and waste your only wish on a sandwich. I get that Jake only said that because he has faith in Finn, but that is outrageous. Just so you know, Prismo is the pink dude on the wall. Anyways, he warns Jake not to waste his wish on something so insignificant. So in the meantime, Jake and Prismo were just chilling, watching Finn suffer from the comfort of their hot tub. A cosmic owl, shape-shifting dog and pink shadow chilling in a hot tub together. You don't see that every day. What you also don't see every day is your pet dog morphing into the most evil being in the universe in front of your very eyes. This is what was happening to Farmworld Jake as a result of the mutant spray being released. And after witnessing this, Farmworld Finn was preparing himself to fight the Lich once more. Luckily for Finn, the real Jake had one wish left, and thanks to the fact that he's so likable, Prismo coached him on how to not mess up his wish. The thing with Prismo's wish is that they have an ironic twist and tend to bite the person who made the wish back in the butt. So the best way to save the universe was to say, I wish the Lich's wish was for Finn and Jake to go back home. That way, the Lich would have wasted his wish and Finn and Jake wouldn't make a wish. That backfires against them. At this point, everything may seem all happy and great, but I never saw it this way. I just saw this ending as a mere prevention for the inevitable, that being the next horrifying plan the Lich would come up with. What I also found creepy about this whole arc is the realization that no matter what you do, the Lich will never die. If wishing for him to simply cease to exist doesn't work, then what hope is there for the Adventure Time world? From what we just witnessed, there will be certain events in each timeline that are destined to happen, such as the creation of the Evergreen Crown and it somehow falling into poor Simon's grasp, or Finn being forced to fight against evil, except instead of the Lich, he would be fighting destiny itself and learning the consequences of who he was facing firsthand. All these factors will always eventually clash against each other to bring the Lich back. He is truly inevitable. Well, this was a darker video than usual. Initially I was going to make a what is Adventure Time even about video, but that quickly got debunked after I realized this show is that serious. There's so much juicy Adventure Time content I'd like to cover. But while you're waiting for my next video, how about you follow my Twitch, that's in the description, and subscribe to the second YouTube channel in case I want to stream on there. You may not know this about me, but I have a crippling gaming addiction, so please help me fuel it, and I'll see you in the next video.